You're currently watching part 1 of a 3-part series talking about the 3 kits in front of you in the order they appear on the box. So let's start this off with the star of the show. Hello and welcome back to another Plomo review. Today we're taking a look at the SMP SPT New Layzner from Layzner. And starting off as always with the articulation, the head is on a front to back hinge as well as a ball joint going down into the neck. So great range, no real problems with the articulation there. The shoulders are just ball joints, but that's still more range than the R3. This piece can hinge out, which is to give clearance for the arm on the outwards bend here, so you can get just under 90 degrees out to the side, which is fine. There is a bicep rotation as well as a double jointed elbow for a pretty good bend, honestly. Hands, as always, are on a ball joint, and these closed fists actually have articulated knuckle dusters. Talking about the backpack real quick, it has pretty much the same articulation as the R3, which is to say the articulation it should have. This whole section hinges up and down, and these are on ball joints. So plenty of range there. The waist is on a ball joint for a really nice wobble there. Honestly, given the actual design of the Layzner's torso, you couldn't really expect more than that, so I'm not going to complain. Front skirt is hinged, side skirts are hinged, back skirt is solid. Hips are interesting because they shift down, and then there's actually a ball joint there as well as a thigh swivel. I will say on this copy the left leg doesn't like staying on as much as the right one, but that's not a huge deal because, you know, just pose it and leave it, it's fine. There is a double bend at the knee for a full leg bend. Knee is a little bit hollow, but you can't actually really see that almost any of the time, so it doesn't really matter. Ankle guard can hinge up and down, and the ankle itself is arguably just a ball joint, though there is a little bit of side-to-side rock inside there. It's fine, it still has pretty good articulation. So overall, the SMP New Layzner has better articulation than the R3. Now, getting into accessories, there is no sticker sheet, but there is a bunch of pre-paint on this. That said, there is still a bit of paint missing. I did paint, well, the eyes in there are blue trim, and the eyes are pre-painted. I did paint a green on the sort of inside detailing in there, just because it was white plastic and it was a little bit too bright. I also painted black in here, and the chair sort of a olive color. It's supposed to be tan, but underneath this it looks fine. The black on the sides there, this gray is pre-painted, but this spray was a bit off by default, so I did touch that up. The camera, however, does need to be painted. That's just completely missing. Also, this is one big white piece here, so the gray in the center needs to be painted, which is fine because it's inlaid, it's easy. Speaking of missing gray and black, the black in here, which is easy enough, the black on these vents, which isn't inlaid, so it looks a little bit funky, but it's good enough. And the gray on this, which I'm pretty sure it's on the same runner as that, so it would have been easy to paint that, but whatever. This whole section here, as you can see, it's peeking out a little bit, is just painted red. So the sort of pale blue needs to be painted, as well as the black on the center of those bells. Not a huge deal, but kind of weird that it's missing. Technically, the back of the hands are supposed to be this pale blue instead of just white, but you can barely see it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. This thruster bell should just be gray. I forgot about that, but again, it's a small detail. It doesn't really matter. I did remember to paint the thrusters on the leg missiles gray, though. Those are just white plastic. But aside from that, this thing is pretty much perfectly color separated. Honestly, even if you don't paint that stuff, this still looks great. Also, I will point out, all of the red on this is paint. There's no red plastic, which is... that's a really solid paint there. You can barely tell. It's the same shade of red the whole way across. So, getting into accessories proper, let's start off with the hands. You get these two closed fists, which have, as I pointed out, articulated knuckle dusters, which is nice, but you also do get two open dynamic splayed hands and two holding hands, and unfortunately they do have to share the knuckle duster pieces for those. Could have just given us 4, but I guess that keeps cost down. And in the holding hands you can, come on, put the rifle, which, yeah, needed a little bit of paint, but it is surprisingly well color separated. Also this, just, come on, there we go. Instead of being a hinge, it's just 2 pegs, so you can actually have it hold the secondary handle if you want, which is nice. I'm going to be leaving it down, but it is nice to have the option. You also get these 2 effect parts, which are for the leg missiles. These clear parts actually plug in where the weapon goes on both shoulders, so you can have it sort of coming up over the shoulders, which is nice. And you just pop these off of the back of the leg and plug them on to this. I will point out I shaved about half of these pegs off of this because it's really long and it would be an absolute nightmare to pop these off otherwise. So, you know, keep in mind, if you do want to put these on, I'd recommend shaving down the pegs that actually hold them on a little bit. Getting them off the leg isn't really a problem though. And finally, you do get a stand adapter which plugs into the back skirt, which is why there's a hole there. Probably could have been a more elegant way of doing that, but... And as for a quick size comparison, yeah, the SMP Layzner is pretty short. I mean, it's about the size of the shin of the Real Robot Revolution New Layzner. That said, it is pretty much perfectly 1/144 scale. I'm honestly kind of impressed. The Layzner is pretty great. This is my first experience with SMP, but if the rest of them are this quality, I wouldn't mind getting some more if I could get them at a decent price. Even with the better articulation and the pretty much 1/144 scale, I do end up preferring the R3. It's chunkier, it doesn't have as much articulation, but something about it just feels really nice, which is just kind of missing from this, weirdly. And yes, I realize the point of Candy Toys is that they're kind of cheap, and obviously it's not going to live up to something so much more expensive, but it just doesn't quite have the same oomph. Which is not to say it's bad, because it's still a really good kit, just not my favorite out of the set. And that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. Subscribe and hit the bell to be alerted for future reviews. Come chill in the Discord. Follow me on Twitter, if that's even still around, and consider supporting me on Patreon so I can keep bringing you videos like this. And, as always, until next time, happy building.